someone who either wants to create an online course or has an online course and wants to create an additional stream of income promoting these courses? Or have you taken your business into the online learning market? So stick around today as we talk to Raja Dasgupta, who we will talk about an event that he's going to host just, I think, end of this month. And that event will share about how you can take your online learning market, how can you can look at the trends of the online learning market and take your business to the new level. And this event will have 30 expert speakers who will give market insights, and we're going to talk to Raja today about that. Welcome to the Rise and Be Rich show. We create these episodes for our podcasts, for our coaches and consultants and wellness services and startup business community that we serve online and through our inbox newsletter, if you're in there, and also through our audio and video masterclasses and training. So today we're going to talk to Raja Dasgupta, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at Gen Z 360 and the creator of an event called Prarambh, which means the start or the beginning of a new triumph. Insights into how to manage the change that we are facing in the world today as entrepreneurs, as trainers, as students, and as leaders. And as we speak with him, I would also like to explore some of the reasons to get into the online education and online learning market space at this time, and what we can expect from the speakers from Prarambh. So Raja, thank you for joining us and sharing some insights.
Yep. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone across the world.
Yeah,
so thanks for a nice introduction, and here we are.
So let's go right into it. So I saw when I got the literature from you with regards to Prarambh, I saw that you're bringing around 30 speakers over 2 days. So what was the genesis of the idea? Can you tell us a little bit about what the event is, and then how did you come up with that idea and why this event at this time?
Yeah, this is actually, we've kind of created this event. The whole genesis of creating this event was to use India as a kind of a role model to implement such activities and across at a time when it's really difficult. Mm-hmm. India is actually, if India has to grow or the world has to grow and prosper, only it happens only when we prepare the next generation for future. So the pandemic actually has brought in a lot of changes. It has brought in a lot of disruptions as well as a lot of changes professionally as well as socially. So as you rightly said, Prarambh, which basically was a thought from us to create a platform for different vertical domains where we can possibly bringing youth on one side and speakers from all walks of life on one side, predominantly to ensure that we are sensitizing the youth, we are educating the youth, we are creating a pool of ecosystem where the youth can actually exchange and value add, get a lot of value add from the speakers, and get ready for the next generation leadership. Because unless and until we build this leadership, nurturing them, mentoring them, world as a whole, and our focus is India right now, and I'm sure India can actually become a replicating factor for across the world.
Yep.
And we kind of relate that and build a roadmap for future.
Right.
So that's the genesis which actually got Prarambh into action.
Right. I mean, it's very, very much needed. And then there's a lot of different, I would say, events and forums and summits that are happening at this time. But one of the things that I've been noticing consistently over the last few months are the thought leaders. They have really kind of opened up their vaults. There's an explosion of online learning over video, learning on social media, lots of Facebook lives, because ultimately content was one of the when you look at marketing, you lead with content. When you look at online courses or the education, you're leading with content, but it's really coming to the forefront. So what are your insights on how we are shifting into online learning, online courses, online business as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, because I think what disruption got in, um, I mean, thousands of people, thousands of organizations been talking about importance of online learning, importance of digital learning, importance of relatable and relative content or parallel way of learning has been quite progressive in nature. If you talk about pre-pandemic, and people have kind of started accepting the fact that, um, starting with government to enterprises to thought leaders to even the consumers,
Yeah.
have started accepting the fact that content is a king, and because of digital content availability, which is accessible to people through WhatsApp, YouTube, social media, and different kinds of OTT channels, I think there's a huge shift which is going to happen and has already happened. People are trying to adapt to that. I'm not saying they've kind of completely adapted to that, but the fact that people have realized that this is very important. The new education policy in India has kind of put an endorsement of the fact that 40% of the curriculum can be on digital learning, which is a huge shift, I would rather say, and a government has to be given a lot of accolades for implementing such a policy. But I think on a whole, disruption has actually taught us professionally, socially, that the importance of content is relatable content. I think content is important.
Yeah.
But the shift which is happening is because the next generation is going to be very high on multitasking, very high on relevant content. I think people will spend a lot of time on content which is more eye-catching, which triggers and creates an impact, and and it can actually turn around maybe in 2 minutes. So that's kind of content which is more relevant for maybe through video, maybe through voiceover content. So the market will gradually shift to text-based content, to video content, text-based content, to voiceover content. I think that's the way forward.
Yeah, and I know that you're talking also in context of what's happening in India, but it's actually happening everywhere, because your event is focusing on the changing trends, especially in India. And I saw, as part of your panelists, you have several professors from some of the top Indian universities and entrepreneurs, and you've got a really good mix of people. And I'm presuming that a lot of them would also share insights around a blended learning, which is where students are learning via online, but they're also doing face-to-face. So there's that blended learning, and then there's all this online learning. And when we're looking at it across the markets, as you were saying, the trends, they're pretty phenomenal. I mean, I think I read in market research, there was this US e-learning market. They were predicting that it could grow $12.81 billion between 2020 and 2024. And then I read in another article on Global Newswire, where they're kind of showing the growth. In 2015, mobile learning market was 7.98 billion. The end of 2019, it was 27.32. And then as we go through COVID-19 pandemic, the number of mobile users worldwide, the growing number there, experts are predicting that mobile e-learning market will hit 37.6 billion by the end of 2020. So there's just all these changes happening due to COVID, but also our adaptability to it. So maybe just from the point of view of challenges that you're seeing, challenges that are faced by teachers as well as the students, trying to adapt to this, the blended learning style, the fully online learning, what do you see? What are some of the challenges that you're seeing with this, across both teachers and students alike?
Yeah, that's one of the very favorite, response of mine. And it's a very well drafted question because that's a concern. And you rightly said that, while our focus is on India, but, what we are trying to do is in India, trying to build up global citizens.
Yeah.
So the people who will be viewing us across the world, India and across the world, would be basically looking at India to be maybe a creator of workforce which will be ready for the next generation jobs across the world. So I think it's important to know, while I talk about the challenges, it's important to know that once Michael Dell has mentioned that, by 2030, the kind of jobs
Yeah.
which will do well and which will prosper, uh, 50% of the jobs are not even created as if no, the skills have not even being perceived, not being even conceptualized. That's the danger. So I think what the changes what we need to do is in this direction. We have to look at future. We have to look at what kind of jobs which are available. What is the percentage of redundancy right now?
Yeah.
We have so what the challenges would be from a student's and the teacher's perspective, from both sides, it would be there are a lot of things which needs to be unlearned and relearned. And when the relearning will happen, and unlearning is very important. I mean, you can't stay, even the teachers cannot stay with the so-called traditional way of learning methodology, traditional way of teaching. And what I'm trying to talk about relearning would be in the area of which are much going to be much more relevant in years to come, especially post in the next 3 years to 5 years. So we have to look at that, and training methodology would be very important. Flipped classrooms were talking about, people were talking about flipped classrooms, but hardly anybody had actually seriously implemented this. Formal learning will look now as more of a learning which is more relevant to the student. I mean, today a student can learn physics at the same time he can learn economics, and then he can take vocational subject as music as one of these subjects, and make this as a part of the curriculum, which is more relevant for what he wants to do and which is more relevant to what he's going to do in the next few years. And I think that's very important from a student perspective. From a teacher's perspective, I think it's a work in progress, because you can't just have a brick and mortar classroom, shut down one day and then start digital learning immediately on the next day. There are a lot of challenges involved. A teacher's, looking at the machine and teaching people a class full of 30 people, 40 people is difficult, but then it's not impossible. I think that's the transition, that's the transformation which I'm talking about, unlearning and relearning, which will give them the skills to be much more relevant, much more exciting, much more connected to the student, which will make the entire learning process much more interesting.
Yeah, I think, there are a couple of really important things that you said, especially for our community here. Most of our community here are entrepreneurs, are online, that have either a component of their business online or fully online business owners. And one of the key things you talked about is you've got to, you have to move with the times. And the easiest way to do that is, people get overwhelmed because there's so much change happening and so many new things to learn. But essentially, you have to unlearn what you've learned before, because you have to shift with the time. But coming into events like this, and I have done 3 summits in a span of 2 months. And these really are trying to understand these changes and work with other people or learn from other experts who are going through these changes and collecting data and sharing that data and sharing these insights. I think it becomes really important to learn through that format as well. And so actually one of the best ways we learn, social learning is one of the best ways we learn. And then going and changing the skills, or the skills that you need in order to work with these new jobs or the new skill sets that you would need in this changing environment. So as we're talking about this, I'm going to just touch about marketing, because I saw when I was looking at the speakers that you have, and you've got them split into 2 days. The first day, and correct me if I'm wrong, the first day focusing on issues like adapting to the new way of learning. I think you've got the career roadmap, a global perspective, and industry transformation. But on the second day, it was quite interesting for me as well, because you included speakers from entertainment industry, content producers. I think there's a lady who's a fashion blogger, and you also have advertising and broadcasting. So do you think there is a trend of kind of bridging that education and entertainment? Because you mentioned just a while back about the impact of the content as well. So, we are looking at how we can make our content better, how it sticks better. So we have to capture people's attention in order to promote further learning. So what are your views on that? Yeah.
So one has to understand why is Praram created. Praram was created to create a series of events which will work over the next 6 months, will happen in different domains. The first 3 or the 4 areas which we will focus on the first set of 2 days would be education, women empowerment, sports, and entertainment. You rightly said, well, the first day we will be focusing more on the adaptability on the education side from a learner perspective and the teacher perspective, and then moving into the women's role in this change post the epidemic, and the kind of contribution they will bring in to the learning ecosystem as well as to the working world. The second day, please understand, as far as youth is concerned, the 3 broad areas they engage is education, sports, and entertainment. And the adjoining and the synergy of all these 3 is the content. And you rightly said that, content is the key. When you learn, you need content. You need content which is relevant to you, relevant for your future. When you move into sports, there is a huge transformation in terms of, and then adaptability is very important. I mean, there is the sports personnel. There's a concern over people can't go out. I mean, you won't have spectators in the stadium. You will not have people watching you. So there has to be engagement, where the fan engagement, and the fans are these youth, are these next generation guys. I mean, today, if you have to give them some time, I mean, there's a lot of low attention. These next generation will be relatively low on attentions. So they're kind of, if you have to, engage with them, what is that? If you don't ask them to go to the stadium and watch, and if you're asking them to get clued on to the OTT channels and the television, then what's the future of sports here? And when I'm talking about transformation, there's a lot of shift which has happened from sports to esports. And there was a time when parents used to tell their children to go out in the park and do physical sports. Today, because of the challenges around, parents as well as the children are spending a lot of time on gaming and esports. So learning tomorrow can also get amalgamated with gaming, and this content is very, very relevant. And why we have included this, it's all related to jobs, it's all related to skills, it's all related to future. And the next set of discussions which we'll have next day would be on parallel career and entertainment. Parallel career is something which I very, very strongly believe that, when a child is growing up, the adolescence period, that is the very important time when they realize what's their strength is, what's their passion, what's their hobby. And if their career is aligned to their passion, hobby, and future, a child always excels in life. So there are a lot of emergence because of the disruption which has happened in the parallel career, which is away from medicine, away from engineering, away from the standard way of formal education. I think we have a very, very intense panel which is happening next day. Last but not the least, entertainment is the mother of all content, and I think we should not miss it out. And that is where there'll be a lot of synergy, amalgamation, which will happen in all the dots. So we're trying to fill up the dots in every youth's social and professional life so that, we can make a difference.
Yeah, it's very interesting how this shift is happening at it's kind of all areas of our lives, and we have to keep that in mind while we are. And this is you're talking about parallel careers, but there are so many people right now who are launching their new businesses, and they're launching businesses around what they love. They're trying, they're kind of looking at alternative ways to with their career. They've had a corporate career for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and they're launching something new. I mean, that change is not just the kids, but adults are going through that same process too. We are starting these parallel careers. Either earlier we used to call it the side hustle, but now the side hustle is the main hustle, right? So for a lot of people,
True.
that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's really relevant content. So let me just quickly recap. So we talked about the online learning gaining momentum at this time, which prompted the genesis of the event for Praram, and then the thought leaders. We talked about how they're building online authority. They're using that for their online learning. They're doing this authenticity, opening up to a larger group of people. We talked about blended learning to fully automated online delivered programs and courses. We talked about entertainment or edutainment, entertainment, and these parallel careers. So all of this is happening. Everything is shifting online. I know that this is going to be the bulk of what we're going to do in the event, but could you just touch upon how do we, as entrepreneurs or business owners, teachers, students, prepare ourselves for this change? What are some of the highlights that or what kind of insights would we gain when we go for this event?
Obviously, I'll touch upon what we're going to do. Obviously, we've spoke about.
Yeah, we spoke about a few, but
few things about
in terms of
what the event will
preparation
achieve.
of change.
Yeah, but I think what's very important is the next 1 year would be very, very tough. However, the 1 year is going to be very, very challenging as well. I think what's very important is that while innovation and disruption is the key, but one should also look at it's a very, very pessimistic word, but I think survival for the fittest would be very, very important. But I think that's also very key because anybody and everybody who will get aligned to what's required in the market and not get confined to what I'm doing at this moment and believe it from that perspective, I think we like to transform ourselves from what we are doing from legacy to what's more fashionable. I think that's very important because at times, whether you rightly said that it's not only kids. I think in the entire process, every age has their own challenges, has their own aspirations, and they build up inspirations from times. And I think this is the time while from the health-wise, there are a lot of challenges, and that we very extremely sorry to lose a lot of lives in our global ecosystem. However, this has also created a lot of opportunities. A lot of new industries have come into. A lot of industries like like I spoke about esports, the digital tech and the education and technology would be the way forward. The content would be key. Technology would be the part of life. I mean, technology cannot be an industry. Technology would be an enabler. So I think going forward, these are the key things which as entrepreneurs, as students, we'll have to adapt to. Anything which is going forward is more progressive in nature, more fashionable in nature, more relevant in nature is something which you need to adapt. Even if that calls for, unlearning, undoing, and leaving aside what you did as a legacy and to walk the path in the same direction how the entire world will move in. I think that's the way forward for existence.
Mm-hmm. Really what you said, the operative word here is be flexible. flexibility is key right now. Don't get stuck with what you have learned, you've done so far, but be flexible and learn, and then reuse that. So thank you so much for that was really great. So what we'll do is the registration, I'm going to put the link of the registration with this video, this podcast, however we are going to air this, but also you've got a Facebook page. So I think the easiest way for them to get the information would be to hop onto that Facebook page, which is facebook.com/ it's PRARAMBH 2020. So that's Praram 2020. So facebook.com/ Praram 2020. And then of course, I'll also put the registration link. It's a little bit longer, so I'll put a bit.ly and I'll put that link to you. And to get connected to our free trainings on high growth marketing for coaches, consultants, wellness service businesses, just click on the link that I've provided and then download a free copy of a guide to creating marketing for high paying packages. And you can get into the group trainings for 100% free. So you can do all of that at www.ahanalara.com/ high paying packages. That's AHANALARA.com/ high paying packages, just one word. So thank you so much, Raja, for joining us today. We really appreciate your giving the time as well as free tickets into this event for our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All the best.
And for everyone tuned in, I'll be posting a bunch of in-depth interviews with some of the speakers of this event. So if you are signed up to our list, newsletter, or group trainings, you'll be able to get all these interviews as they come up. So stay tuned and let's make take this opportunity of growing online and learning from the experts in this industry and take our businesses, our careers to the next level. See you in another episode of Rise and Be Rich. Bye for now.